Here we are together again on the radio. Oh, God. This story from the Los Angeles Times. Don't like it. I don't like it. By the way, how much is the Los Angeles Times cutting its budget? Have you heard about all the newspapers that are going in the tank? I mean, newspapers are dinosaurs. They're done. They're toast. They're finished. Newspapers are something your grandpa used to read, but come on, they're dead, dead, dead. By the way, my dad worked for the New York Post for 43 years. He also rode a horse and buggy. Okay? Newspapers, dead. I mean, if you're still getting a physical copy of the newspaper at your door, you're probably too old. Okay? That's the way it is. So here's the deal. The Los Angeles Times is one of those newspapers that has been in such bad shape. The company that owns it, which is Tribune Company, owners of the Chicago Tribune, it's been taken over by a private equity group led by a guy named Sam Zell. Sam Zell, among his great achievements, he's the guy who cobbled together the current edition of Clear Channel Communications, okay? So that'll give you an idea of who he is. So anyway, you know, what happens when these private equity groups buy companies, like a private equity group just bought Chrysler. So Mercedes-Benz and Chrysler are no longer like Daimler Chrysler. It's now a separate company, Chrysler. Chrysler, what do they call it? Chrysler Corporate, Chrysler LLC, that's what they're calling it. LLC stands for losing lots of cash. That's right. What happens when the private equity group comes in? These are like a bunch of, you would hope, savvy Wall Street investors, and they come in and they say, all right, we don't care if you got unions, we don't care what you got, we're going to start cutting the budget here. This place is going to be profitable if we have to fire everybody in the place, and they just come in and start cutting. And the Los Angeles Times now is no exception. I mean, they've, waved goodbye to all these columnists and everything. Of course, if you read the L.A. Times, you would know this. But many people have just said goodbye to their local newspaper, whichever it is. So how much has the L.A. Times cut the budget? Here is a story. This story is not about Timbuktu. It's not about Kenya. It's not about Nigeria. This story is not about Siberia or Antarctica. It's not about the North Pole. It's not about Southeast Asia. This story is about L.A. County. County of Los Angeles. And it comes from the Associated Press. The L.A. Times, I guess, could not afford to send an actual reporter out to get the story down at county headquarters. So where are they getting this from? One of the suburban papers? The Penny Saver? The Recycler? Who reported on this? We don't know. It's the Associated Press. So the L.A. Times quoting the Associated Press. Here's the story. It says here, modeled on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, a county program, that's Los Angeles County, officially unveiled a program which will use wanted posters in an effort to find what it calls this is the county now, the 10, quote, most egregious child support payment evaders. The posters will be put up county-wide. Let me just say this, because your county supervisors and what have you, they would like you to think they are creative in doing this. 15 years ago, when I had the misfortune of living for 10 months in Boston, they came up with the exact same thing in Massachusetts. Wanted posters on the subway with deadbeat dads, and they used the phrase deadbeat dad, so there were no women on these posters at that time. It says here, the posters will be put up county-wide. David Summers, aide to County Supervisor Don Nobby, says the 10 individuals have displayed, quote, patterns of behavior that have gone to extremes to avoid child support payments. It says here that together they owe more than $2 million in unpaid child support for 17 children, with individual amounts ranging from $63,000 and $427,000. Says here, Nobby, District Attorney Steve Cooley, and County Child Support Services Department Director Stephen Golightly were on hand for this morning's announcement. I guess they're not going to go lightly on these people. Golightly said, we really don't want to put parents in jail, hardy har har. We just want them to pay and take care of their children. By the way, David, let me ask you a question here. I'm sorry, Stephen, let me ask you a question. May I ask you a question? Child Support Services Department Director Stephen Golightly, can I ask you a question? Are you certain that all these men actually are the fathers of all of these children? Can you prove it? Can you also prove that they have access to their children, that they know where their children are, that they have visitation rights with their children that are not being taken away from them? Can you prove that when they want to see their kids, they can? I didn't think so. It says here, using $500,000 of your taxpayer money, district attorney's investigators have been tasked with tracking down and arresting child support evaders. One of the 10 most wanted evaders, probably a listener, I'll bet, Michael W. Davis, was arrested within the past few days and can be taken off the list, Nobby said. Davis owed almost $300,000 in unpaid child support, according to county officials. The investigators have arrested 61 evaders since December 4th and cited 64 others, along with 6 others captured incidentally by other law enforcement agents and 29 who voluntarily surrendered. 160 of the 1,240 outstanding warrants for child support evaders countywide have been cleared. Wayne D. Dross, what an appropriate name for a guy who has a job like this, chief of the County Child Support Services Criminal Prosecution Division, said prior to the DAI's coming on board as part of the arrest warrant project, we were entirely reliant on such coincidental enforcement by other agencies to clear warrants. Golightly said, in addition, nearly $1 million has been collected since December. That's not necessarily a good thing, because we don't even know if these guys are actually the fathers of these children. In some cases, I'll bet they're not. Golightly said the amounts owed can rise quickly because the 10% interest rate charged on unpaid child support that has fallen to arrears. By the way, payment plans can be set up, however. He said that the state's compromise of arrears program also allowed officials to decrease the amount owed. He said it is possible to whittle it down. So now we're going to have wanted posters for people who haven't paid what the county says is the child support they owe in the county of Los Angeles. Isn't that fantastic? No, it's not. By the way, let me ask a question. When there are orders of visitation, when a woman has been told that the child's father will have the right to see the kid on certain days, certain weekends, certain holidays, and a woman does not let the man have the child, is the county also going to put wanted posters up on women like that? Is it? Why not? When a woman is ordered to live in the area and she takes off with the kid for another state, are wanted posters going up to show those people? These guys who are forced to continue mailing in their child support checks who don't know where their children are? Are we going to have wanted posters for those women? No? Why not? You see where all the emphasis is. The emphasis is on taking wealth from men and giving it to women. That is the law enforcement focus. And when women deny men the right to be the father to their child, when women deny men the right to see their children, Not to mention, when women commit paternity fraud and say that a man is the father of a child and he is not the father, and then they get money out of the guy for 18 or 21 or who knows how many years, why aren't there wanted posters for that? Would you say the priorities here are a little out of whack?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-866.
I don't trust anything that bleeds for a week and doesn't die.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Los Angeles County is now going to post wanted posters of the 10 most wanted child support evaders. Is that a good thing? Don't you think we should have the 10 most wanted child kidnappers? The women who take their kids across state or county lines or to other countries. The women who deny the men visitation of their own children that the men are paying for. Yeah, why do you think they don't do that? You know why. You know. 1-800-5800-TOM. That is our telephone number. Let's say hello here to Jason on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Oh, good to talk to you, man. You know what I was thinking would be a lot of fun if we start a nonprofit and get donations where we actually pay for paternity tests for some of these guys and publicly embarrass the county, Mr. Nabe, as well as, some of these women who are sleeping with so many men and they just randomly picked one of them, probably the one who made the most money, to be the father, and label him and he's guilty before, without any proof at all, just on her word. What do you think, and how could we get that done?
Well, I say you should not have the name of a father on a birth certificate without DNA evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Period. That would solve this problem. But, you see, Los Angeles County doesn't want to solve this problem because then you wouldn't have a child support enforcement division of the size you have. You wouldn't have all the law enforcement presence that you have. You wouldn't have the big scam that pays a lot of the county employees who get to play this game with innocent people all the time. They want to keep that bureaucracy. They want to keep that little fiefdom in place. That's why.
You're absolutely right. And maybe if we can embarrass them enough, they'll back off a little bit.
Well, they're not embarrassed by anything because they know people in this county of Los Angeles don't vote in large numbers, don't pay attention to local politics. They know that the average man just sits and tolerates the law the way it is, that men don't rise up, that men don't march, that men don't write to their legislators, that men don't come down to county supervisor meetings and scream their bloody heads off. They know they can do whatever they want because nobody pays any attention.
So you don't think it would do much good to start some sort of fund where we could help get the truth out there?
I think you'd be better off starting an organization that gathers men together in large numbers to disrupt every county supervisor meeting until this is made fair.
I like where you're going with that. Do you have some suggestions on how to get that started?
Well, the Internet has been powerful in, for example, publicizing the candidacies of certain people. Howard Dean 4 years ago, Barack Obama this year. I think the Internet is a good way to get this going. There are plenty of chat rooms and plenty of websites devoted to men's rights. It would be very easy to get on these sites and get into the chat rooms and start telling people that you're forming an organization to do this.
That's a great idea. I remember a statistic a few years ago that I saw from Marilyn Von Sant, or whatever her name is, that like 10 to 30% of children who think they know who their father is, that's not actually their father. So on these 10 most wanted guys, probably 3 of them, and maybe even more, aren't actually the father.
Oh, it could very well be more, because in many cases, guys refuse to pay because they know they're not the father.
That's a good point. Well, it's been really good talking to you, Tom, and would you take me out with a, let's go old school.
Old school. Here you go. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Let's say hello here to Andrew on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Doing okay.
Hey, listen to your intro, and, you know, there are some ways that fathers can fight back, and they can actually, the fathers who give a darn about their kids. You know, when it's a court order and the judge orders that there's visitation rights on this date and time and so forth and so on, that's pretty much, that is a court order. A judge telling, you know, the mother or father, whomever, you shall do this, you shall do that. Now, when this person violates that, it's up to the individual responsibility and initiative of the parent who's being denied, and in this case talking about the fathers, to file a police report with a violation of a court order every time it happens. And every time it happens, it needs to be documented because, like anything else in the law, if it's not written, it didn't happen. It can't be a he said, she said kind of thing. It has to be where the person being denied right and access to their child needs to have, even if the person calls you, like the mother calls you.
Yeah, but there is, but by the way, Andrew, as you know, as many parents will tell you, law enforcement is stretched to the limit. And you know that. There's the mayor and there's the police chief of Los Angeles constantly talking about how we don't have enough officers just to do the everyday work of catching criminals.
Well, you know, you're right. But when things come to us, to law enforcement, and it's all there, it's so much easier to present to the city attorney or district attorney. It's so much easier. And a lot of times they don't file on people because lack of sufficient evidence or likelihood of proving is insufficient and so forth. So when the public gives this to law enforcement, it makes it that much easier for law enforcement to go ahead and do their job.
Right, but if the district attorney doesn't press these charges, if the district attorney doesn't take the resources it takes to use the long arm of the law to bring these women back to the state of California, back to Los Angeles County, where they're supposed to be with those children, it doesn't matter how good a job law enforcement does locally.
Well, I mean, there are some cases where it does work out well, and in the cases also where you have paternity tests that aren't being done, if men go to a family court and request it, the judge will order a paternity test done. The father may have to pay for it, but I tell you what, it's worth an investment of a few $100 to get a lifetime. Yeah,
but there's a limit. If it doesn't happen in the first 2 years, I believe it is, you have to pay forever regardless. You see, we had... I cannot remember the name of the state legislator we had on. He's now retired due to term limits or whatever. And I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but he was sponsoring legislation that would have closed this loophole. The way it works with child support, and this was explained by a state legislator in California on this program from Los Angeles, is that when a woman applies for public assistance, welfare, if you will, what happens is that they say, well, who's the father of this kid, so they can go after the guy. So what happens is the woman will name a name. Now, who knows how many people she slept with, or who knows if the guy is even somebody she ever slept with. So they say, okay, what is his last known address? So what women do is they say, well, they put down, well, they don't know where he lives, so they put down their own address. Or maybe he lived with them, and now he's not there anymore. So the woman will put down the man's address as her address. So now a letter is delivered, not certified, not registered mail. It is delivered to the home of the woman who is claiming that this guy's the father. She takes the letter and throws it away. One letter goes out, and that's it. And then the father is a victim of summary judgment. And he's the man is assumed to be the father, even if he's not the father.
Yeah, you know, you're right. And what it boils down to, Tom, everyone out there should listen to you, wrap it up, and if you don't want a kid, take the kid.
No, but that's true. I agree with what you're saying. But you don't understand what I'm saying. In the county of Los Angeles, they care so little about whether the father's actually the father. They just want the money. And so what they do is they nail guys who have similar Social Security numbers. You know, how many guys named Juan Rodriguez live in Los Angeles? So Juan R. Rodriguez, Juan L. Rodriguez. There's a lot of them. And there are guys frequently who get tagged for child support who never even met these women.
Yeah, that is criminal. That is actual. I mean, that's fraudulent and criminal. And you're right. There should be some recourse to go after it. But you're right. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, it is a low level. It's white collar. It is purely monetary as opposed to violent crime, which everyone's focused on nowadays. But you know, the guys are in a situation. Good luck. And you know, like you know, listen to Father Tom, and they'll be okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for your time, Tom. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the call. I mean, certainly everybody should take every action they can. When you're accused of being a father, go in and vehemently deny it and have your DNA test done. Because if you don't, they're going to garnish your wages at some point in time. Don't throw those letters away. Don't hide from them. Absolutely don't. Because they're going to get you. And then that woman, who you may or may not have even met, much less have had sex with, will be taking money out of your pocket for the next 18, 21, 25 years, whatever. But now we have another officer on the phone here. Now, Leo, you have a totally different take on this.
Well, I just wanted to get with you, Tom. Second-time caller, by the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The documentation by the police officers and calling the police to, follow up the court order, not the Band-Aid that you need, because we're ordered by the city that I work for that we do not enforce those court orders anymore. We don't go out and take paper on them. We don't do any enforcement on that stuff. That's strictly civil, and it's divorce, family court stuff now. So to document all that stuff doesn't guarantee you anything.
But that doesn't stop them from putting wanted posters out now in Los Angeles County for the people they say are evading child support.
Right. So, they're totally out of line on the thing. It's just a waste. And I think the cities, like who I work for, realize that it's a waste because it's almost it's a conviction before you were ever tried, and to have to pay child support for 20 years, that's guilty before you're proven innocent.
That's right. That's right. And as I've been saying, it's interesting how they want to put wanted posters on people who don't pay child support. But women who kidnap their children, women who take their children so the men can't find them, no wanted posters for them.
Happened to me, Tom, and it, being with my connections, it took me about 3 weeks to find her in another state. And
imagine if you didn't have those connections, and most guys don't.
And they don't. And you know what they said in Colorado where she ended up? Too bad, she's gone. There's no court order against her taking it as well. So the whole system sucks. But guaranteed you're going to pay the bill while she's gone.
Oh, no doubt about it. She'll continue to collect child support. But you won't see your kid, hear from your kid, talk to your kid, and she'll be there telling the kid that you're a piece of crap.
All day long.
That's
and
right.
When the day she hit the ground there, she filed for some kind of welfare in another state, and guess where they came first? They sent me paperwork, wanted to verify my employment, my address, and how can they do that before you didn't? I didn't even know where she was. So
outrageous.
Anyway, documenting the stuff with the police is not the cure. Most departments anymore won't even come out and enforce that stuff.
And like you, there are many officers who have been through this problem. They empathize with the men who are in these situations, and there's just nothing that the officer can do.
Right. And, I have 2 more years left, and thank God I'm almost done paying on this one. And, live and learn, though. But, boys, listen to Tom, man. That paternity test is the only true way. I agree with you 200% on that DNA.
Yeah, these guys who throw that letter away when they get it are fools.
Absolutely. And you're right. That was well put about the birth certificate. Why should my name be on there if I don't even know, biologically that's mine,
you couldn't, in many cases, you couldn't convict someone of murder without DNA evidence anymore. Why is it that they can accuse someone of being a father without DNA evidence?
All day long, How many times here in our lovely L.A., we know a few that had horrifying DNA evidence against them, and we couldn't convict them. So, hey, that's the way it goes.
Outrageous.
Anyway, thanks for the time, Tom.
Leo, thank you.
What you're doing on that end of things. I love it.
Thank you, Leo. You call us anytime.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866.
You are the voice of reason in this godforsaken world.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.
From Hollywood, It's the Tom Leykis Show. Thank you for tuning in. Los Angeles County, oh yes, on the cutting edge. They're now going to put wanted posters out, the 10 most wanted child support evaders. How many do you think are going to be women? Yeah, probably not. Probably not any. You betcha. And on top of that, we're the wanted posters for women who kidnap their own children. Well, we're not going to have those. I see. Anybody in the county of Los Angeles want to comment on this? Want to want to come on and defend this? Of course you don't. You keep hiding under the desk there. That's right. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Let's say hello here to Drew on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hello, Tom. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Hey, doing the Lord's work, Father. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, I want to kind of wrap this up in a nutshell real quick. Most of your listeners, I think, are kind of missing the bigger picture here. The entire system from the ground up needs to be revamped. Unfortunately, you don't see that sort of major overhaul stuff until there's lawsuits in place. And I think that's probably the most effective route to get this change done.
Well, there should be, but there won't be.
I agree with you.
There won't be.
I hate to sound pessimistic, but yeah, I think you're right.
This is much bigger than it sounds. They love to try to shift this, say how men are irresponsible and there's deadbeat dads, blah blah blah. This is the government transferring wealth from men, A, to the government, and B, secondarily, to women. That is all this is about. It is not about children. It's not about the best interests of children. That is the biggest lie ever told.
Well, and my story might be proof to your point, too, Tom, now that I'm hearing you put it in those words, because I'm the father of 3. I have custody of all of my kids, and the non-custodial mother, I've got judgments. She's been garnished. She just refuses to work, and there's no pursuit on the county's behalf to do any sort of criminal warrants or prosecutions against her.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions to say that it's based on sex, but I don't see them doing anything.
If a woman does it, it's okay. That's how it works. This is Ed on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
How you doing, Tom?
Okay.
Yeah, I was in front of a judge, and out in the courtroom, and out in the hallway they had posters up there for deadbeat dads. They had it up there in big letters, deadbeat dads. And I asked the judge... So
it didn't say deadbeat parents, it said deadbeat dads.
Deadbeat dads. And I asked that judge straight up in court, I asked him, how come they don't have deadbeat moms out there? And he said society wouldn't accept that. And I sat there and argued with him, and I wanted to get in 10 days community service for contempt of court, because I sat there and argued with him. And it's
unbelievable.
This is one subject that will just piss me off, Tom, and you have a great show. And, I mean... Now I got custody of both my boys, and my ex-wife, she went in and she had liver surgery, and she almost died. She was in intensive care for like 2 weeks. She had an $800,000 bill, and then she tried to get Medi-Cal on top of that. I turned her back in, and I said, hey, she can't get Medi-Cal because she owns a business. She doesn't have no custody, no kids. And they nailed her with the whole bill.
Oh, good for you.
And the thing is that don't let any of these guys, back down from these guys. If you stand up to the child support people, they get pissed and they back down. Just grab your nuts and go to town on them.
All right, Ed, thank you for that. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Let's say hello here to Ram on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
How you doing, Tom?
I'm okay, Ram.
Okay. I'm a divorced guy. I'm 37 years old, and I pay a lot of child support. I really agree with the guy who just spoke about rebuild the system. But my really question is, when this judge sitting over there, set the amount of child support with no any consideration, who makes sure that this money going to the kids, actually? Why I'm paying child support? I'm actually paying child support to feed my daughter, right, to take care that she will wear a nice clothes, she will have everything she needs. How do I know what the money? I'm thinking about gift cards. Why cannot give my ex-wife food stamps? And gift cards to go buy clothes and shoes, right? And gift card to Ralph or to grocery store to go buy groceries. Why should give her money? She can do whatever the F she wants with the money.
Oh, I totally agree.
Bothering me.
I totally agree.
you know? Why I cannot bring food stamps? You want to feed the kids? How much cost to feed them? Where you want to buy a shop? I'll give you $500 food stamp from Ralph, and I'll give you $500 good. Then I know, you know, that the money that I'm paying going to my daughter. But if my ex-wife driving a Mercedes, you know, and buying a nice skirt because she want to go on a date, I'm paying for this skirt. And this is what is bothering me.
Well, that is because, as I said before, county governments, state governments, they don't care about the welfare of the children. They care about, A, taking money from men, whether or not they are fathers, and B, transferring wealth from men to women. That is what this is all about. That is what it's about. Hey, thanks a lot for the call, Ram. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Evan on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
I think it's unfair that they made a top 10 list for all these men when they should make a top 10 for all these women who are basically criminals, and they trick and trap their men into having these kids, and then all they do is badmouth the dad or husband, boyfriend, whatever, and the kids hear all this bad stuff, but really the dad could be a good guy, and he just got stuck with his bill with a bitch of a mom.
Well, you know, again, we hear these horror stories all the time. I try not to put them on the air because you could do an entire radio format. And I'm not exaggerating. You could do a radio format where you ask people to tell child support horror stories, and that could be the entire format. 24/7. 24/7. But you see, people never call the people they should be calling, which is their county supervisor. They call radio stations. They tell their friends, but they don't do anything about it. And we have to do more than hiring attorneys. We have to do more than you know, just file paperwork. We have to actually go down and demand that the laws be changed. What state was that, Gary? What city was that? What state where they were going to demand DNA evidence of every live birth? There's a state that's which one? Tennessee. Did that law get passed? Not yet. Did it get turned down, or is it still in play? See, that's the kind of thing that we need here. Tennessee is talking about DNA evidence for every live birth. Every one mandatory. And that would solve the problem, but nobody wants to solve the problem. Don't you understand? Nobody wants to solve this problem. They want to take money from innocent schmucks and transfer it to women. That is what this is all about. It's tyranny. It's outrageous, and men don't do anything political. They don't do anything about it. There's very few organizations. There's very few men. Are you kidding? People should be going down there screaming, yelling, and disrupting every county supervisor meeting until this gets changed. But men, obviously, are you just a bunch of whiners? Are you just a bunch of panty wastes? I don't know. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Here comes Susanna on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi. I was calling because I am a former child support officer. I used to work in LA County, and I know that everything you're saying is completely true. The men need to wise up. Unless they request a DNA test, it's not going to be offered or given to them. It's actually free if they ask for it. And they need to ask for it as soon as they get any type of papers. What happens is basically if the men don't answer the summons and complaint that's sent out to them, it's considered a default judgment, and they automatically go after them. And they'll submit the DMV, they'll submit the franchise tax board, they'll submit every single possible way of collection. A lot of men were trying to sell homes when the market was good. Well, guess what? The child support is going to get all that money that they owe before they can close escrow on anything. So the men really need to wise up on what they're doing and always request a paternity test. You'd be surprised how many men out there.
But I have it right. They've got it set up. Mm-hmm. They've got it set up so that a woman names a guy, Joe Blow, and they say to the woman, all right, what is his last known address? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, so she puts her own address.
The last known address. If she applies for welfare, she can use her last known address where they live together.
So the letter arrives at her home where he doesn't live. She gets it and tears it up. Mm-hmm. The guy never responds, and then there's a default judgment. Mm-hmm. That is outrageous.
Yes. or, as you mentioned earlier, common names, Joe Smith, Juan Garcia, something very common where the county will look up addresses where the name matches, and they'll have the summons and complaints sent out to that address. Whether or not that was the correct guy, they can start garnishing wages on that person because of the default judgment. And also, a heads up to the men out there who have the civil judgments, the money that's collected for welfare goes to the county. They can reimburse you if they erroneously took the money. But the money that's collected and sent out to the moms, if you're not the father and you've been paying for 5 years, guess what? The county's going to tell you, you figure out how to collect that money. If they took thousands and thousands of dollars, you have to figure out how to get that money back.
Right, which no court ever gives back. There was one case, and it was not in California, where a man was ordered repayment after it was discovered that the woman knew that this guy wasn't the father, but took the money anyway. It turned out the father was the guy she ended up marrying, who she was apparently screwing around with before she left the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens all the time. And a lot of times men who just want to be a good guy don't want to request it. Don't make that mistake. Request the DNA. You never.
Even if you think you're not, even if you think you are the father, request the DNA test, because you have no idea what kind of slut you've been dealing with.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Thank you, Susanna.
See you, Tom. Bye-bye.
Appreciate the call. 1-800-5800-TOM. Here's a caller who says he works for L.A. County. Mike, hello.
Hey, Tom. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Long-time listener.
Thank you.
I've never gotten the chance to call during this subject because I'm always working, and you know all the girls in the CS office listen to Star. but yeah, you're not a fan amongst them. But anyhow, yeah, going to the subject, it is definitely one-sided, and it does penalize men more. We have a form that women fill out, and if they fill it out incorrectly, it's an income form. And that form basically lets the county know how much the woman's making. If she fills it out incorrectly, no big deal. The guy has to eat it for the amount that you didn't declare. If the guy fills it out incorrectly, guess what? You got to go to court, and you're going to get contempt charges. So
unbelievable.
It's just, I see it all day long. And, you know, being in the office, there's really nothing you could do. I mean, I'm kind of going against the grind, but, you know, for those guys out there that, you know, look at the paperwork. It's all basically free online. You know, you can look it up, make sure you fill it out correctly, make sure the woman fills out her stuff in, you know, her.
But couldn't we eliminate a lot of this if we just demanded mandatory DNA testing every time a child is born?
Well, yeah, but you'd be surprised. Like the gal that just called right now, she works there too. She's right that they will, you know, the DNA testing is not required.
But it should be.
And most people, I mean, believe it or not, guys will get these summonses, you know, for child support, and they think back, oh, did I sleep with this gal? Oh, yeah, I did. You know, and they don't fight it. They don't think about getting a DNA test. And
But if they were mandatory, this problem wouldn't exist.
Oh, yeah. They have to make it mandatory. You know, but they, you know, again, I'm not sure, you know, how up the listeners are in the public, but it's as far as the county, we now have turned over a lot of our collection process to the state of California.
Oh, my God. Unbelievable.
The Tom Leykis Show.